continue no matter what, on behalf of all of those doing the same thing she's been doing over the years, that is making a better world for all of us. So thanks everyone for being here, and I'm looking around seeing people come from coast to coast to spend some time here, and I'm going to have to ask you one more time, like Count Basie said, one more time to come out. And I'm asking you to come out next Thursday at noontime, right here, and we're going to surround these buildings. We're going to march around these buildings before Judge Koeltl delivers his decision. And that is whether Lynne dies in prison or whether she comes home, and let it be clear, whether she comes home to join us, not to sit down and die. We're all going to go that deep sleep one time or other, but to come out and join us in the struggle that you have waged alongside of her for all these 50 years of her adult life to make it better for everyone, every place on this planet. And so let us begin one of our final festivities, if you will, one of our final meetings on behalf of Lynne Stewart. As I say one more time, after this, we will be in front of that courthouse, and then we will have Lynne with us, and she says she doesn't care. Get her out, and she's going to attend these events on a wheelchair, with a cane, or crawling, with a sign to support justice everywhere. Because one of the first organizations that we started back in 1962, the motto says, truth is the summit of being, justice is its application to affairs. Let's apply some justice to affairs, and I'm going to ask the grannies to open up with a little bit of application of justice.
Nice of you to show up.
All right, please sing with us. The first song, it says the letter capital A. All right, you ready? In, 2, 3. In old New York City, where justice is blind, there was a great lawyer who's now in a bind. Her name is Lynne Stewart, and she helped the poor, but she got on the wrong side of America's wars. Now our justice system we have to renew. The political hawks are a real rotten brew. Our young troops must die for our freedom, they said. But it's freedom that's dying and justice is dead. 3 judges condemned her to jail for 10 years. A sentence both unjust and wrong, it is clear. Her cancer has spread. She needs treatment, you may. But she visits the doctor with arms and legs chained. When Stewart was doing what she had to do, protecting her client and civil rights too. She said an attorney must fight to defend. I'd like to think that I would do it again. Now Lynne sends a message to you and to me that no one is free until everyone's free. Our whole Bill of Rights now is under the gun, so we'll rage and we'll sing till justice is done. So we'll rage and we'll sing out till justice is done. Next song, ready?
Yes.
Yes.
was afraid.
Oh, Lynne, she will survive.
We're starting with the chorus.
She stands to stop injustice and to help our spirit thrive. She's got all her life to live. She's got all her love to give. She will survive. Oh yes, she will survive. At first I was afraid, I was petrified. How will I continue with our Lynne inside? Vicious sentence, far off prison, shameful health care. Then I hear her voice, upbeat and brilliant from in there. Our Lynne, she will survive. She stands to stop injustice and to help our spirit thrive. She's got all her life to give. She's got all her love to give. She will survive. Oh yes, she will survive. Our lawyer, Lynne, strong and free, bringing vigorous defense to our community. Her clients facing poverty and police brutality and risking their lives to shape a new reality. Our Lynne, everybody sing, will survive. She stands to stop injustice and to help our spirit thrive. She's got all her life to live. She's got all her love to give. She will survive. Oh yes, she will survive. Those in charge rule by might. They couldn't stand our valiant lawyer fighting for our rights. They use spying and surveillance and manipulated fear. From her cell, it's working tirelessly for sisters prisoners there. Our Lynne, she will survive. She stands to stop injustice and to help our spirit thrive. She's got all her life to give. She's got all her love to give. She will survive. Oh yes, she will survive. Last song. You ready? Please turn it over.
Oh, okay. Okay. My country isn't free. We've lost democracy. We
Protest now! Lynne Stewart serving time, though no one knows her crime. She's dying with every run. We protest now. Julian Assange was right. He brought secret files to light. For that he's banned. And Bradley Manning's fate for helping circulate this government's secret date put him on trial. Now Edward Snowden's next. He spread more secret texts. What will they do? My country isn't free. Where is our liberty? We must come home. We must get Yay! Yay! All right.
I mean, I know what you know.
Another film with the Raging Grands.
Okay, thank you so much for coming out. And as I said, we're coming to the end on Lynne Stewart for obvious reasons. And as I said, I've asked you to come out many times, and as Lynne said to me last night, stop wearing out the good folks supporting Lynne. We have to support all political prisoners. And as I say, I'm going to ask you to come one more time on behalf of Lynne, and I'm going to call Sarah Flounders at the International Action Center, who raised this question with me last night. I think it's a great idea, and so without ado, We all know Sarah Flounders. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Ralph. For everyone that's here and is absolutely determined to continue fighting every step of the way for Lynne, for compassionate release, for freedom in any way it comes, next Thursday is a big, big challenge for us. And it was spectacular yesterday on about 12 hours notice that the courtroom was packed, and in front of the federal building there were people. That was tremendous. So now we have 1 week's notice. 1 week, and we need to really think what we can do to not only pack the courtroom, but can we have a rally here at noon? The court begins at 2:30. From 12 to 1, can we circle that building? Can we get drums? Can we get musicians? Can we raise hell?
Right on.
Can we make our voices heard in every way? From 12 to 1. Next Thursday, and then we'll all march over, and as many people as can get in that courtroom are in that courtroom. And we're also on standby. They say they're expediting that, but next Thursday may not be the last day. There may be another expedited date a few days later. Let's be ready again, but mobilizing. The struggle right now is right here in New York, right at the federal building before Judge Koeltl. And let's absolutely stay mobilized, but put everything, every email address into saying, be out there Thursday. There are a lot of people who can come for lunchtime. They can't take the afternoon off to be there in court, but they're there in support. So some people come for 12 to 1, some 1 to 2, some into court. Let's get folks every way we can and keep up the struggle for Lynne on every front, on every form of media, everywhere our voices will take us, and at the same time be calling for support for every political prisoner, for the hunger strikers at Pelican Bay and the hunger strikers at Guantanamo, and for Mumia and for Leonard Peltier and for so many, many other of the prisoners, the enormous number of prisoners in this country. But for Thursday, for Lynne Stewart. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Woo, woo, woo.
In the words of Lynne Stewart, she says, what are the rewards for the work we do? The rewards are being who we are. We have some victories and meeting the people that we meet. And so today is the birthday of one of the people that we have met, one of the wonderful people we have met in the struggle. And Lynne says the struggle should not only bring pain but joy. So joyously, I'm going to ask Sheila Hamanaka to come here and receive our token of appreciation for her good work. And happy birthday, Sheila.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sheila. Happy birthday to you. This is for me?
That's for you, Sheila.
Great place to be on your birthday.
Thank you very much. We should change the lyrics to, let's see, Free Lynne Stewart.
Free Lynne Stewart today. I like
Free Lynne
that.
Stewart today. Free Lynne Stewart today.
And many more. Okay. Thank you so much, Sheila. There are so many struggles going on today, and one that we must recognize is the struggle of Jericho. That is the organization that supports political prisoners. Now, we began this vigil for Lynne at the White House June 17th, right smack dab in the middle of a heat wave. 100 degrees, 104, humidity, it was outrageous. And then one day we had terrible rain, we were wet up to our waist, and by the afternoon we were dry. It was hot. And the person who stood there with me every day, and Lynne complained, when I told her what we were doing. She says, "You're killing off the good people and the government doesn't have to do it." And I said, "But Lynn, they told me when I was in school that people who looked like me were naturals at that. And we did it for 300 years. So I said, I think I'm going to do it for one more year for ourselves." And so without ado, I'm going to ask Paulette Dutel to tell us about Jericho, and I'm going to hold the sign. Thanks, Paulette.
Okay. Well, it's been great. This is a wonderful way to spend your summer. But we would have liked to have more people, and so hopefully there'll be a bus coming down. But maybe after next Thursday, it won't be necessary. But even if it isn't, we need people to come and stand. Ralph and I do it from about 10 to about 2:30, 3 o'clock every day. And when it's not so bad, we're sort of listing by 4. And if it's real bad, at 2:30 we take off. But we had a wonderful event last night.
Night before last.
Night before last. Sorry, I lost it. And Pam and Ramona and everybody came down. So there's many people throughout this country that are with us around freeing Lynne. And all the prisoners that she has helped and all our political prisoners would gladly change places to get Lynne out. So Lynne's thing is we must support all political prisoners. Tom Manning, I was sorry to be rude, just called me, and because I told him I was going to be there, and he said, "Please tell Ralph to tell Lynne that we're doing everything. Leonard has her in the sweat, Oso Blanco and all the native people, and Lenny Foster include her in every sweat they run and attend." So we know that when whatever happens, she's in good hands. And we just have to hope that she's out before that transition takes place. So we have to work. We want more people to come to D.C. We have housing. Some people actually have beds. Some people have couches. If you're young, I have a tent. Because that's what we used to do when we went to on demonstrations. So feel free to call us and we'll make arrangements. So we have to free the land, protect our political prisoners, and work to bring Lynne home.
Okay. Thank you, Paulette. We understand something, that Paulette is more than words. When I first said I'm going to be there from June 17th until, Paulette said, "Bring it on. I have space for people. I'm going to bring people," and that's what she has done.
What date do you have in mind for the bus?
We will have plenty of time to talk about the date for the bus. It's moving around. It's around the 12th. Okay. As Paulette said, let us hope that we're not taking the bus to 12th for Lynne. Let's hope that we're taking the bus for someone else. And so, with that said, I'm going to ask Marty Goodman, because there are many issues here. Marty Goodman got a phone call from a very active friend, Joe Lombardo, up in Albany to say a few words about one of the other issues. So without further introduction, Marty Goodman.
Hi, thanks for coming. I'm a retired transit worker, and now I've got time to do this stuff. The stuff that I love doing is coming to demonstrations and showing how I despise the repression against political prisoners that's coming down in this country. All the prisoners that we've spoken of, Leonard Peltier, Mumia Abu-Jamal, all the heroes of the working class like Lynne Stewart. We need to be out in the streets again and again and do whatever it takes. So we're going to have a big rally next week. Everyone needs to get on their email list and send out the word. We need to be there in big numbers. Our trade unions should be doing something about democratic rights, but they're not really doing it as yet. but that's something that we've got to work on. There are also struggles around police brutality, like justice for Trayvon Martin, Kamani Gray, Chantel Davis, right here in the city. All of these struggles should be feeding into one another and being one huge clenched fist. 1% never changes in that building or in Washington, D.C. I don't care who it is. We are around the world in what, about 70 different countries. We have armies in those countries, military facilities in those countries, and involved in wars that we don't even know that we're involved in. It's all part of the same issue. The Snowden scandals, with all the spying on
Hi. Free Lynn.
You're not the only
You were
person.
too?
I was married twice.
You're not the only person. You're too young to be married. You were married twice?
No, I
You're
was
not-
joking.
Yeah, put that on Manhattan cable television tomorrow. I heard from other folks that
like all of us. They need to be crushed, and they don't care who gets in the way. So we have to stand behind Lynn, day in, day out, get out the word to our working class friends and family. We need to be in the street for Lynn, because she's been here so many times for us. Okay, well that's it. I'm speaking for United National Anti-War Coalition, and we're continuing to work against U.S. intervention in the Middle East, against aid to Israel, and for economic justice here in the United States. And we say it's all one struggle. Free Lynne Stewart. Thank you.
Years ago, down the street, there are many names that were involved in this struggle, and for many years there was the name William Kunstler. Well, William is not with us today, but he's with us in spirit. For today we have 1.5 Kunstler to begin to speak to us. Marjorie, would you like to say? That's it.
Hello, everybody. I am today 1.5 Kunstlers. I'm here with the National Lawyers Guild to show support from the National Lawyers Guild. Garrett Wright is here too. He's the president of the New York City chapter. You know, when I came here today, I actually passed a lawyer in my building who said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going to rally in support of Lynne Stewart." And he said to me, "Why?" And I didn't really have time for him because I wanted to get here. But I was so taken aback that he would say that to me, that he wouldn't understand as a lawyer, as a human being, as a civil rights advocate, that, you know, the question is, why aren't you coming? Not why am I going? I've known.
That's the question we have for many people.
I've known Lynn for as long as I can remember. Maybe all of my life. You know, she is a source of inspiration for me. She is a mentor. She is a friend, and we need to bring her home. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are talking today about liberation for our political prisoners. And I see one of our political prisoners who had a success just walk up. We had a success because I think, as someone said, we brought him home. Well, here he is to say about bringing people home. Cisco Torres, would you come up and give us a few words? All right.
I'm out here for Lynn because Lynn has always been out here for all of us. As you know, Lynn is one of the old warriors for us. Lynn has been an example for me because I'm younger than her. And I know that through all my trials and tribulations, I've watched Lynne throughout the years, and Lynne has always been supportive of not just us, but liberation movements throughout the world. And there is no reason why everyone who is in the movement, anybody who's for human rights, everyone who's for the liberation of all oppressed people throughout the world shouldn't be here for Lynne today. And we ask and demand of this United States to release our sister for humanitarian reasons to us so that we can help provide and care for her like her family, as her brothers and sisters, and like we should, not just as comrades, but as her human family. So we ask not only for the support of Lynne Stewart, but also political prisoners as well. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all you being here.
I got saddled with this.
Okay, thanks again. But I remember I said before 4th of July when I went to visit Lynne, I thought myself this was going to be a very difficult visit because I knew the subject we had to talk about. And when I met her at the door of the visiting room, I was comfortable by the time we got to our seats. Because she said to me, Ralph, we all have to go, and all I'm interested in is what is my going to look like? And so by the time we sat down, it was a very relaxed conversation because we had already gotten over the difficult part. And she was able to tell me about a letter she would receive from one of the participants in over the many years of our long struggle for liberation. Russell Means' wife was asking if she could visit Lynne because he said it was very important. Now, you know, Russell Means died about, the head of the American Indian movement, died about 6 months ago. And so she said she had a spirit dream that Russell was talking to her. And Russell told her to go visit Lynne and tell Lynne not to worry because he was on the other side and other great people were looking to help Lynne make her. Natsu Ward Churchill's wife got in contact with Lynne and says, you must arrange for a visit of Russell Means' wife. And Lynne says, so you see, I am not afraid. Many have passed before me, trying to make America live up to the dream that it speaks of. And she says it would be a difficult passage if she hadn't worked very hard to make this dream true for all. And she's satisfied that she has done that work, and she made it clear that she wouldn't do anything different. And she used Joe Hill's words, don't mourn for me, organize, organize, organize. And so I'm going to ask an organizer who has been organizing over the many years on behalf of Mumia Bujimong and other political prisoners. Susan Ross, would you come and give us a few words? Thank you.
I'm sure all of you heard that the United States government, Eric Holder, told Russia that they didn't have to worry about Snowden being tortured if he comes back to the United States. Did you all hear that?
It's a lie.
Would you believe it if you were in Snowden's position? Would you believe that the United States would not torture you? The whole definition of torture by the United States is denounced internationally. The whole world knows that the United States tortures prisoners, both our political prisoners, our social prisoners, international suspects, Muslims. The United States tortures people. Lynne is being tortured. I repeat, Lynne is being tortured. When you're this sick and you're put in shackles, that's torture. When you're this sick, and for 6 months or 18 months, she was denied treatment for 18 months, knowing that she had terminal cancer. She was denied treatment for 18 months. We went to, you all know about Juan Mendez. He's the person who announced about 2 years ago. He's the Special Rapporteur on Torture of the United Nations. And 2 years ago, he announced that isolation more than 15 days is tantamount to torture, and that had huge impact all over the world, and especially in the United States, because there's so many prisoners in isolation. And the California people, the prisoners, the brothers and sisters in California took this up. So we need to take this up around Lynne at this point. And I called them. I called Juan Mendez 2 days ago, and they called me back within a half hour and said they were very interested in this case. They knew about it, because I am sure that they would declare this, they have to investigate it, a case of torture. And the United States hates to be told that it's torture. The United States is embarrassed by the constant international exposure of its torture. How can it go invade all these countries to supposedly guarantee human rights, which we all know is a lot of bullshit? But how could they even say the words when they're charged regularly with torture? When we raised the issue of torture, when Mumia was put in isolation after he was removed from death row, he was put in a more severe isolation, believe it or not, than death row. We went to Juan Mendez. When we told the Commissioner of Prisons in Pennsylvania that we are filing a complaint for torture, and we sat in on his office, the next day Mumia was taken out of that isolation setting. So I think this is an important thing. We're going to pursue it. In addition to all the other things that are happening and that are being done, there's no one solution. But I also wanted to say a word, thinking back. How many of you read Mumia's book, Jailhouse Lawyers? Well, that book is an essential reading for all lawyers. Of course, Lynne doesn't have to read it. I'm sure she read it, but she doesn't have to read it because she knows what's wrong with lawyers who are paid in this society. And that book is an exposure from the prisoner's point of view of how much lawyers have been complicit with the state, how much lawyers have not really fought for their clients, but have been under the control mentally, psychologically, and legally of the system that pays them. And that book is a heavy, heavy indictment of the whole legal system. And I stand here today along with all of us, again, in tribute to Lynne. That is why Lynne is in prison, and that's why she's being harassed, because she did not follow those kinds of, she was accountable to her clients. She was what we call a client's, a people's lawyer, what we always say about her. And look at the price she had to pay. So we know she's being tortured, we know she's being denied her rights, and we are here and will be forever with Lynne and everyone else who has that kind of courage. Thank you.
Suzanne, I just want to add to what you just said. For those of you who don't know, Mumia is now on iTunes. You can download his film and his video and pay for music rented on iTunes. I'm not sure I know how or what that is, but some of you may know. Okay?
And as an introduction to lawyers, we just had a lawyer. I'm going to introduce another lawyer, but I'm going to follow up with what Susan said. When Lynne is in prison at Fort Worth, one of the first things she said to me is, Ralph, half of the women wouldn't be here but for an hour of good work by a lawyer. And I was trying to get Lynne to write a book about some of the outrageous cases of people in jail because of lack of a lawyer. And when the judge said to Lynne, gee, when he was speaking about Lynne, you're an oxymoron. A lawyer who's successful, who's poor. And so I hate to do this to the Lawyers Guild, but I'm going to do it. Come on up and tell us about the good work of the good lawyers in defending people and keeping us out of jail.
Hi everyone. My name is Garrett Wright. I'm the president of the National Lawyers Guild New York City chapter. And as Sarah was saying earlier today, the NLG stands in full solidarity with our sister and comrade Lynne Stewart. We call for her immediate release now. We are inspired every day as progressive and left lawyers and legal workers and law students by Lynne's example of courageous decades of fighting against the racism, the sexism, the classism that permeates all aspects of American society. Lynne is an outstanding people's lawyer who has been fighting an amazing fight, and we stand in her shadows really each and every day. I know myself, I've been working as a progressive lawyer for the past 5 years. I met Lynne initially when I was in law school in the Bay Area many years ago, and it was amazing to meet her, to get to know her, to learn from her example. I think we all know what's going on in this country in terms of the repression that is being directed against people's movements, against progressive movements for racial justice, for economic justice, and that the lawyers and legal workers and law students that are out there trying to support those struggles are also now being targeted because the government clearly does not want these movements to succeed. And so we know that the attacks on Lynne are an attack on the legal profession, but also an attack on the progressive communities throughout the United States. It's a travesty what has happened to her. It's also, I think, a travesty what has happened to so many people that have been targeted by the mass incarceration system in the United States, which is clearly a system of racial and economic control, again, imposed by the ruling class in this country as a way to continue to dominate and obtain wealth for the 1% at the expense of everybody else. So I'm glad that here's so many people today making the connections between Lynne's struggles and the struggles that are going on every day against the mass incarceration system. The NLG has a mass incarceration committee that was formed up last year. They're doing work here in New York City. They're doing work nationally. So I encourage people to reach out to that committee. If you have questions about it, let me or Sarah know. I'm also really inspired right now with all the amazing prisoner-led struggles that are going on from Pelican Bay, Corpus Prison, other prisons in California, where over 30,000 prisoners went on hunger strike, the largest hunger strike in U.S. history, which is still ongoing. I think over 700 prisoners at least are still on the hunger strike today, to prisoners in Palestine that have been on hunger strike for the past few years, fighting against Israeli oppression and occupation, to the hunger strikers down in Guantanamo that are at risk of death and they're being force-fed every day by the Obama administration. So I think all these struggles are clearly connected. I'm glad that there's so many people out here today making those connections, working to free Lynne, working to free all the political prisoners that have been incarcerated for so many years and decades, and I hope that we can continue to work together and to build together to free Lynne Stewart, free all political prisoners, and end the mass incarceration system in this country. Thank you.
Thank you.
The gentleman just spoke to me a few minutes ago about how he missed his plane back to California to be here. And one of the things he was saying to me is, it's different talking about prison theoretically and being in prison, because he has been there. So he's going to give us his perspective on our struggle to free political prisoners and all prisoners of conscience and economic prisoners. Thank you.
How you doing? My name is Thug. I'm with an organization called All of Us and None. Organization started by prisoners, people in prison, and staffed by people in prison. We think that all political prisoners and prisoners in general need to be coming home. That this whole approach to dealing with people in society is jacked up. But more importantly, where political prisoners that I know are coming from is that we got to take care of Lynne. And we hear Lynne saying, that we got to take care of everybody else. But we have some understanding that when we needed to be taken care of on whatever level, the sister was there. So if you're hearing this argument about we got to look out for whatever we got to look out for, we need to look out for everybody. But right now, we need to look out for Lynne. And I don't know anybody who's saying anything else who's behind those walls. The Pelican Bay hunger strike is going on, and I don't know if you know, we lost a person 3 days ago. Interesting, the government is calling it suicide. I don't care what they call it. A prisoner died 3 days ago in the shoe. So we say we support Lynne, we support this effort, and free all political prisoners, and we need to free everybody. So thanks a lot.
Amen.
One of the things that I say to people, and I've been saying, they want to kill Lynne. And they say, don't you, isn't that an overstatement? And I answer by saying, the week that she had to go to prison, she had scheduled an operation in New York City Hospital. And those of the prison system said, don't worry, we'll give her an operation while she's in jail. Well, 18 months later, when she could not sit up, when she had to come to the visiting room and take 2 chairs because she was on one chair with her elbow, only after that, 18 months, did she get an operation. And she says it was apologized to all of the people who wrote to her because it was very difficult to answer letters laying flat on her back. If you don't know that's torture, I don't know what torture is. And I say Lynne isn't in jail, she's in a death camp along with other political prisoners who are not getting proper medical care. And today, when it was discovered that Lynne's cancer was no longer in remission and she had a spot on one lung, they said, we're going to look at it next month. So they looked at it next month and she had a spot on both lungs. And they said, we're going to look at it next month. And next month she had the spots on both lungs, in her back and in her bones. And they said, we're going to look at it next month. And our daughter, who is a doctor, was screaming. And she says, this is a very aggressive cancer. Lynne is in a race for her life. Give her a chance to fight it and run that race. Well, the prison did not. And now she's talking about, all I want to know is what death is going to look like. And I'd like to be surrounded by the people I've surrounded myself with. And as Susan said, it is not just blood relatives, it is you. And all of us who have been involved in this struggle over the years. All of us who believe, all of us or none of us. All of us who believe in justice, not only for ourselves, but for everyone in the world. And so we do have torture in these prisons, behind those walls. And Lynne says the worst part of prison is getting in the pill line and watching the dispensing of pills that do not cure anything, but only sedate and heighten the members inside of the prisons. And she says that is torture, weekly torture, and we must get her out. And so I'm looking over the audience, and I think Alicia had said, Alicia, if she'll stop talking to Sarah, that she would like to say a few words. Yes.
I already did that.
Okay, she already did that. She has nothing else to say.
And I'm
I saw
shy.
members of the Green Party who said they'd like to say a few words. And as I promised Lynne last night, and I'm going to keep my promise, I says I am not going to kill those who come out every day to support our political prisoners. And, well, I'm being cheered for saying. Okay, we have a problem with some other killers who kill us economically. That is the traffic writers. And so Betty's overrunning to save the car from a ticket. And so I'm going to keep Lynn's word when she says, do not kill the people who come out to support us. We're overworking them. We're over asking them to give their all every day. So I'm asking you to give your all just one more time. I've heard from the musicians, but they seem to have gotten lost on the train. It's going to rain. They can't bring their guitars. They can't bring the drums because of rain. So without much ado, if Betty comes back from losing the car, would you know how to drive? Would you get in the car? And I'm going to ask Betty, I'm going to ask Betty to give us some closing words, because as Betty said, she has known Lynn for 50 years. And she talks about how she first met Lynn and how Lynn had impressed her as an elementary school librarian and as the fights she fought over education. And then she had announced that we had lost every struggle we were ever in, and she thought she would like to be a lawyer. And so she became a lawyer, and you know that story. But Betty tells it best. If I can just get her away from the car, Bob is going to save us from the rapacious ticket writers we have in New York City, and we're going to use that $50 or $60 that we would have spent for the ticket to help the movement. And I hear Betty coming, I see her coming, and she's going to give us closing remarks. Betty Davis, teacher extraordinaire, principal, fighter for human rights, and most of all, fighter for the right to a decent education on the part of every child.
I'm not wearing orange because I like looking like a pumpkin. I'm wearing the orange because you know they are the prison colors. And I'm wearing the orange because John Henry Clark said, we are all political prisoners in America. He said some of us were forced to come on boats. Some of us were forced to come as indentured servants. Some of us were forced to come because the colonialists took our land and we had no place else to go. And some of us are political prisoners because we have a belief in what is right. You need to understand, this goes back a long way. Socrates could have left. They wanted him to leave. But he said, if I go, then what happens to the moral position that I'm trying to get across? What was his crime? What and in what way was he corrupting the morals of the young? He was a dissenter. He dissented, and he asked questions. He dared to ask questions of all the senators as they came out of the Roman Senate. What law did you pass today? Why did you pass that law? I object to why you did this, and what reason did you do that? And they said he was an enemy of the state. Poor Socrates had no lawyer. You cannot have democracy unless you have the right to dissent. If you have a body and the state disagrees and there are people out there blowing up clinics and you fight back, okay? They're murdering doctors because they want to protect the fetus. You understand that. You can maybe explain it to me. But you go and fight them, you're going to need a lawyer. If you don't have a lawyer, then your opposition has no meaning because they will put you in a prison where you'll get cancer like Lynn and they will wait for you to die. Even though they didn't give you a death sentence, they targeted you. You were a targeted killing. And this is why we need lawyers. But I leave you with this thought. First, they closed the schools and gave us charter schools. And we did nothing as the corporation corporations took over the curriculum in the classroom. Now they're closing the hospitals. Interfaith, Long Island College Hospital, and before that, the one in Manhattan. And we do nothing. Now they're closing public housing. They are co-opting the projects. Can you spell project? So the poor have no place to live. And we do nothing. And they are closing the public libraries. And we do nothing. And they are taking the public space around the supermarkets, privatizing it, so you can't go there with your protest signs. And we do nothing. So how are you going to dissent when they come after you? Because now they are closing down Amendment number 6 to the Constitution. You got no voice. If you got nobody to defend you, then we must do something. So I thank all of you for coming out today. I hope you'll be there to give them the shock they got yesterday when they saw all these people who refuse to do nothing. Even if you only stand, you serve. Because you are saying, I'm not one of you. It doesn't matter how you dress. It doesn't matter how you look. It doesn't matter how you walk. If you walk funny because you're tired from 40 years of marching, all that matters is that you find a way to say no. And that's your right in a democracy. And I thank you. You've all earned the right to get this way the way I did. Have a chocolate ice cream cone.
Thank you.
And Daddy's out in the sun with us.
Okay, it is very difficult to top that, so I'm going to be true to my pledge to Lynne, not to kill everyone. And I'm sorry about the drummers and the musicians. I'm going to ask them to be early come Thursday at noontime right here so we can march over to court and march around those courts. And if someone else has something to say to close this, I'm looking. I would like to hear it because every voice should be heard. Every position should be considered. If not, I'm going to close this meeting out. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Free the land.
Free the land.
Free Lynne.
Free land. Free land.
Free all political prisoners.
Free all political prisoners.